Alright, so apparently YouTube has completely crashed for the first 15 minutes of this. All you missed out on is I poured 2 pounds of mushrooms in a bag and put 4 cups of chicken stock in the back. That's my fault. I apparently don't know how to use YouTube. Butter is melting. We're going to throw in we're going to throw 2 shallots into it, and then we're going to get working on risotto. So again, all we're doing here is we're getting these shallots 2 or 3 minutes. We're just going to let them slowly saute. We don't want to brown them, and then we're going to add in our rice, stir, add some wine, stir a little bit, and then we'll work our way through the chicken stock. It's going to take about 20 minutes to cook the rice. And that whole time our mushrooms are going to continue to cook down here. I really want these to get all of the flavor really concentrated. And that means all this water's got to go. And it's going to be 3/4 of a cup of risotto rice in here. Unlike a rice cooker, you actually get to be a little less exact with this. Because you just keep adding water until it's all cooked. If you are a little over on your scoops, you end up adding a little more liquid. If you are a little under on your scoops, you add a little less. It's not a little less rocket science. So we're going to add in our wine. Again, I'm using the Marsala wine. I'm going to use half a cup. If you don't want any alcohol in your house, you can just use chicken stock the whole time. I think the wine makes it taste just a little better, and using the same wine across both dishes brings it together a little bit. So what we're watching for is, as we do this, our liquid needs to be about 80% absorbed. In my case, I want to get this, make sure this is all the way up to like a full simmer. You can really smell the wine. That means I've gotten it up hot enough. The wine is starting to cook into the food. Again, I'm not looking for boozy rice. I'm looking for risotto. Our mushrooms have mostly cooked down. I'm going to give them maybe one more minute. And at the same time, we're just starting our add scoopful after scoopful of liquid to our risotto, and we're going to keep going until it's done. I set a timer for 20 minutes just so I have an idea in my head of where I am. And right about that point, I'll start taste testing. We want al dente, just like rice. And our mushrooms are also done. You can see there's no liquid left in this pan, basically. So I'm just going to pull these all out into a bowl. We're going to use the same pan for our chicken. And I'll put the mushrooms where you can see them. Now, right now it's just fine, but as you get further and further along in making this, the liquid becomes something like boiling magma or napalm, and when you get it on yourself, it hurts. Watch your splashes. The reason behind this is as you beat the rice around in the pan, you're actually knocking very tiny pieces of it off. Those pieces become rice starch, which forms the sauce that gives risotto the texture we all know and love. However, it's a very gluey sauce. Going to turn the oven preheat on to 425 for the asparagus. Going to prep that out while we have our risotto cook, and then we're going to make the chicken. This is going to be real fast. My fresh batch of asparagus. It's really thin. I'm going to take about a dozen stalks. That's what I want. For me, for a serving, maybe I'll go 15. Again, think about how many of you there are when you cook this. Stalks. I'll put the rest out of the way for later. cut off the ends. The ends are pretty much always a little woody, no matter how thin the actual stalk is. In my case, I'm going to leave these completely as they are. I think it'll look better on the plate. And as you can see, they fit very nicely in I have a little tiny silicone dish. I'll put that on a small baking sheet, and we'll be baking this for about 15 minutes. Before I put them in, I will throw a little olive oil, salt, pepper, and probably garlic powder. Garlic does make the world go round. I'm using a high heat oil. My oven's at 425. I don't want to use olive oil, it will burn. We'll use a pinch of lemon pepper seasoning, that's close enough. I'm going to put with my smallest oven pan. Nice pan-on-pan action. We're going to toss it in. It's going to be, like I said, about 15 minutes. I just want my asparagus to be nicely cooked through. Gonna do this for a second. I'm gonna go back to the big thing so you can see it. We're gonna take, give or take half a cup of flour, some salt and pepper, so I can dredge my chicken. We're gonna dredge our chicken, and then basically I'm gonna throw oil in the pan. We're gonna fry it, and then we're gonna add more wine and chicken broth and a little cream and some garlic and, you know, the good things in life. And then add the mushrooms, and our risotto will be ready, the asparagus will be ready, and the chicken will be ready, and then I'll be ready for food. So again, I'm grabbing, give or take, half a cup of flour. Pro tip, always make more dredging flour than you need. Flour is cheap. Like, really cheap. Bunch of salt. And as always, a bunch of pepper, guys. Salt and pepper is also really cheap, so please don't skimp on salt and pepper. A Like, for the love of God, please don't do that. This seems like a lot of pepper, but remember, half or more of this flour is going to still be in the pan, in this bowl at the end of this. So that means half of the pepper is going to be in the bowl at the end of this. I'm going to grab a plate here. And our chicken. Clean knife, clean knife. This is already really thin sliced chicken breast. If you don't have thin sliced chicken breast, you want to either pound it to like a 1/4 inch or cut it to, between 1/4 and a 1/2 inch. As you can hopefully see, these is roughly a 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna get flour all over myself. Dredge this with a little bit of our flour here. We want it on all sides. This will help with browning. By doing it this way with the thin cut chicken, you get more chicken pieces, which can often feel really good when you're eating it. You're like, wow, I have a ton of food on my plate. Really, this is like 1.5 chicken breasts, maybe. Okay, and looking at this and looking at my pan, this will be one very full pan, but should only be one pan. With this being so thin, it's going to be very easy to cook. We're only going to do 2 or 3 minutes on a side. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to wash my hands of some of this flour. If you don't take that step, you end up with flour all over your kitchen for the next 3 weeks. Ask me how I know. So, and I'm going to flip the screens again because there's nothing left to see over here. Cool, it doesn't cover anything. Look at that. I almost planned today. My oven finally preheated. So we are going to put give or take a tablespoon of butter in the pan here. We're going to let it melt so I've got oil in the pan, and then we're going to add our chicken. I'm going to put my fan on low right now, guys. I apologize, but I don't really want to accidentally set off the smoke detectors again. Now remember, we already used this pan to make the mushrooms, so that's what the little bit of residue is. And you'll know your pan's getting hot because you see this starting to bubble. That's the water inside of butter bubbling. And once that stops bubbling, that means you're all the way above boiling. You're above 212. Which is great. And you know, looking at this, I might do 2 batches of chicken. It'll only be 2 or 3 minutes aside. We're probably close here, and quite. Give that 30 more seconds before we put the next piece on. Again, I'm going to give these 2 minutes aside, flip, 2 minutes, pull them off. The last thing I want is overcooked chicken, because that's gross. I'm going to throw a little more liquid in. We're going to see how our rice is after that, because we are getting really close. It's starting to look right, starting to behave correctly. I'm at 15 of 20 minutes. Couple more minutes on the rice. It's getting real close though. Give our chicken, as I said, 2 to 3 minutes aside. And I will add additional butter to the pan on the second batch. As I said before, our flour is going to help make this brown. You won't really notice it because the sauce is not like white or clear, but you know, it's always nice because the browning causes additional flavor. And again, too early. Come on, chicken piece. Gonna be more patient with the other two. I'm really bad at being patient, but I'm gonna try. You can actually start to see there's browning in the pan, or maybe you can see it, which is good. Giving it 1 extra minute. So the chicken is almost cooked, which is, you know, I don't want to overcook the chicken, more importantly. That would be really bad. I'm going to just pull it and, you know, it'll be what it'll be. There you go. It's a lot hotter this time. Our risotto is basically at the full 20 minutes. I'm going to taste it one more time. I'm really glad these spoons go in the dishwasher. It's practically ready. Taking it off the heat. One pinch more of broth here, mostly because I'm going to need to ignore it for a minute and I don't want it to stick. That timer is both 20 minutes and time to check on the asparagus. Which looks almost ready. We'll pull it as soon as we pull our chicken. Wow, that's really washed out. Oh, let's try this. I apparently no longer have the ability to change settings. Yeah, you can't see anything. Wow. Hey, that's okay. Give this 30 seconds. We're going to pull these out. I'm going to first throw a little more butter and some garlic in. Now's the part where everything goes really fast. We're going to add our half of the mushrooms. So we think normally this is where you'd let it sit for 6 to 10 minutes for your mushrooms to cook down. We have already cooked our mushrooms down. So I'm just going to give them 20-30 seconds to get back up to temperature. I'm going to throw in our wine. Our wine will deglaze the pan. I'm going to throw in the rest of our chicken stock and splash of heavy cream, and then we're basically good to go. So again, we took all that water out of the mushrooms. They're actually going to absorb some of the wine right now, which is just fine. It's going to add a little bit of flavor. I'm going to let the wine get all the way up to a simmer before I add the chicken stock, which is close to a simmer. And while that's going on, I'm going to finish out our risotto. Our risotto is going to get most of the rest of the mushrooms. A stir to combine. Now, if you'll notice, this risotto is not quite as stuck together as some you might see in a restaurant. So there's one more ingredient that is basically crucial for risotto, which is Parmesan cheese. I'm going to add about 2 ounces. This is not the situation to use the world's fanciest Parmesan cheese. I mean, I guess technically I'm using European Parmesan cheese because it's from Lidl, but it's not fancy. Give this just a second or two of heat here to make sure I can melt the cheese well. Pull out my asparagus. This will be ready. So will my asparagus, and then we'll be almost time to plate. Yeah, it's good enough. Asparagus looks good. Okay, if you notice, our wine has mostly not evaporated, but reduced. We're adding in chicken stock. Let's give or take a cup. Notice I had the chicken stock almost at a boil because it's from our risotto. We're going to get the whole thing back up to almost a boil. I'm going to add heavy cream right now before it gets there. I love cream. It makes the world go round. I'm going to use a pinch of cornstarch. Actually, I'm going to use a pinch of my flour. I think this is a little thinner. This is not going to come out quite as thick as I would like. So we're going to stir up a little flour slurry. It's maybe a teaspoon of flour. Again, this is, you could put flour directly in. I do this because I hate lumps. And it's a lot easier to mix well right now. As this gets to a simmer, it's going to thicken a little bit. We're going to give it a couple minutes with the chicken breasts back in there, and then it'll all be ready to serve. Remember, flour, unlike cornstarch, continues to thicken once it gets to a boil. So, you need to not go over the top to start. Oh, look, my camera crashed again. That would have helped. I really have to play with that camera a little bit. It is not behaving. So again, put our chicken in, give it 2 or 3 minutes while I just kind of clear my counter off and make it ready so I can plate this up. the flour that's on the chicken from frying it will also assist a little bit with thickening the whole thing. But I want to give this enough time to actually get to like sauce thickness, because that's what's good about it. Yeah, so like 5 minutes or so, and then we're going to plate this up and I'm going to have dinner. I don't know what y'all are going to eat. Really? Okay, no, wait, never mind. It's getting there. It's not quite there. Again, I really want this to be almost ready. Remember, sauce thickens a little bit as it cools as well, so it can be a little more liquidy than you'd expect. And then you give it the 2 or 3 minutes to cool off as it gets down to like eating temperature, and it'll thicken right up for you. But I really do need this to simmer for just a couple minutes. But our risotto looks perfect. We're going to use a dark colored plate. I'm going to pretend that I'm a chef and know what I'm doing. We're going to load our risotto into a glass bowl and then flip it onto the pan. And if I did it right, it will mostly come out like a solid shape, like you would at a restaurant. Restaurants like to use springform molds because it's a little easier. I don't have one. That looks pretty good. Take my asparagus, place them all on the one side here. I'm going to put a couple of chicken pieces down. I'm really not concerned about this chicken being cooked through. It's super thin. The third piece on here, actually, the only interesting thing left, it's plating. Based on the thickness of pieces I used, these 3 pieces of chicken are going to give or take be 4 ounces. I'm going to turn my heat off. I'm going to let it. I'm going to taste it. It tastes really good. I'm going to let it cool for just a second, get it off of the simmer. Then I'm going to top it with mushrooms, a bunch of gravy, and I'm going to eat. I absolutely apologize for the fact that I technically did not have any of my stuff together today. But the food turned out all right. So the recipes are linked below. Uh, I'm going to be doing this every Sunday, so I hope to see you next Sunday. It is 5:30 p.m. Eastern every Sunday, whatever time that is for you. So I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.